The sting hit harder than a slap. I stood in my parents' kitchen, clutching my freshly framed medical school diploma, the ink barely dry, as my mother's words sliced through the air. She didn't even glance up from the tower of gourmet cupcakes she was stacking on a tiered stand. "Sophie deserves it more, sweetheart," she said. Her tone as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "She's always been the dedicated one. You've had other interests." "Other interests?" My hands trembled, though my voice stayed steady. "Mom. We both graduated with honors. Same GPA. Identical." I couldn't believe I had to say it out loud. "I don't get it. Why would you and Dad pay off all of Sophie's loans and leave me with nothing?" My mother sighed, finally meeting my eyes with that look I knew too well, mild disappointment, like I'd spilled juice on her favorite rug again. "Claire," she said, "Sophie doesn't have a fancy mentor like Dr. Hamilton swooping in to pave her way. You've always had advantages she didn't." I almost laughed. "Dear. Evelyn Hamilton wasn't some fairy godmother handing me a golden ticket. She was my research advisor. A position I'd clawed my way into with 80-hour weeks in the lab while Sophie was off skiing in Colorado with Mom and Dad. Advantages? More like exhaustion, while my twin sister basked in their unwavering support, financial and otherwise. So I'm being punished for hustling?" I asked, fighting to keep the hurt from cracking my voice. My father strolled in, slinging an arm around Mom's shoulders like they were a united front. "No one's punishing you, Claire. We're just being practical. Sophie needs more help. You've always been scrappy." Scrappy? The word they tossed around to excuse never showing up to my undergrad research talks while jetting off to Sophie's basketball games. Scrappy. Their justification for gifting her a shiny new car on her 21st birthday, while I got a $20 gas card. Tomorrow, they were throwing Sophie a debt-free party, an extravaganza they planned to celebrate her achievement. They'd invited half the family, her friends, even some of our old professors. The invitation screamed celebrating Sophie's success, as if graduating medical school debt-free was her triumph, not their checkbooks. "I've got an early shift at the hospital," I muttered, grabbing my bag. "I need to go." "Will you still make Sophie's party?" Mom asked, a flicker of concern in her voice, not for me, but for how my absence might dim her golden girl spotlight. "I'll be there," I said, though the thought twisted my gut. As I headed to my car, my phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Hamilton. "Urgent, Patterson Fellowship news. Call me." I stared at the screen, a chill creeping over me. My parents' favoritism wasn't just unfair, it was about to blow up in their faces, and I couldn't stop the storm that was coming. Sophie and I had been on different tracks since the womb. I came first, she followed 6 minutes later. Family legend says I was the quiet one watching the world, while Sophie wailed her grand entrance. Maybe that set the tone. Growing up in Columbus, she was the social butterfly, star athlete, prom queen, while I haunted the library, devouring books on everything from galaxies to genetics. Our parents cheered at every one of her track meets and dance recitals. My science fair wins? A quick, "Nice job, Claire," and a pat on the head. By high school, the pattern was cemented. When we both declared pre-med, they beamed at Sophie and fretted over me. "Medical school's tough, Claire. It's about grit." And Sophie's always had that edge. The irony burned. At Ohio State, I aced every class while juggling a part-time job. Sophie floundered in chem and physics. Tutors and MCAT prep courses magically appeared, courtesy of Mom and Dad. I nailed the MCAT on my first try, 98th percentile. Their response? "That's nice, dear." I never hated Sophie. She was my twin, my other half, and I adored her. She didn't engineer their favoritism. She just soaked it up. Sometimes I caught a flicker of unease in her eyes, but she never called it out. We both got into the same med school in Michigan, and for 4 years we were a team, studying late, surviving rotations, cheering each other on. I thought maybe, just maybe, our parents would finally see us as equals. No, they found fresh ways to lift Sophie up and nudge me aside. When I presented at a national conference, Sophie snagged a community service award the same weekend. Guess who got the parental road trip? Then came Dr. Evelyn Hamilton. In our final year, the renowned neurosurgeon noticed my work on pediatric brain injuries. Under her wing I thrived. "You've got a rare gift, Claire," she told me once, her piercing blue eyes locked on mine. "You spot patterns others miss. That's not teachable." If only my parents saw me that way. The morning before Sophie's big bash, I met Dr. Hamilton in her office. She was a force silver hair, sharp as a scalpel, walls lined with awards and photos of her shaking hands with medical giants. "Sit," she said, pointing to a chair. "Big news." My heart pounded. I'd been waiting weeks to hear about the Patterson Fellowship at Johns Hopkins, the holy grail of neurosurgical research, awarded to one graduating student nationwide. "The committee's decided," she said, her face unreadable. I held my breath. "It's you, Claire. Congratulations, Dr. Claire Bennett. Baltimore's calling." Joy, shock, and vindication slammed into me. The Patterson mine. Full stipend, housing, and best of all, complete loan forgiveness. Debt-free just like Sophie, but earned through sweat, not handouts. "There's more," Dr. Hamilton said, a glint in her eye. "Your parents invited me to Sophie's party, didn't know about our connection. I'd like to announce the fellowship there. You okay with that?" My stomach flipped. "I don't know. It's Sophie's night. They'll think I'm stealing her thunder." Her gaze hardened. "Claire, I've watched your family for 2 years. I've seen them at events, heard how they talk about you and Sophie. Sometimes recognition has to be loud to stick. Your call." She was right. If they heard this privately, they'd brush it off as luck. "Okay," I said. "Do it." As I left, my phone pinged. "Sophie. Mom's gone nuts for tonight. So extra. Wish she'd hype us both." I blinked. Had she noticed the imbalance all along? Before I could reply, Mom texted, "Business casual tomorrow. Let Sophie shine, it's her moment." The contrast hit like whiplash. The party was at a swanky Detroit rooftop restaurant, the whole terrace decked out, thousands of dollars worth of glitz. A banner screamed, "Congratulations, Dr. Sophie." No mention of me, the other Dr. Bennett. I smoothed my black dress and braced myself. Sophie spotted me instantly, darting over in a sleek silver dress. Her blonde bob flawless next to my longer waves. "Thank God you're here," she said, linking arms. "Aunt Linda's asked me 6 times if I'm dating. Told her I'm married to medicine. But I'm open to hot neurosurgeons." I laughed despite the nerves. "They went all out," I said, eyeing the crowd. "Dean Carter, faculty family." "Too much," Sophie groaned. "It's embarrassing." "Why is it just me? We both killed it." Her words loosened the knot in my chest. Maybe she saw more than I thought. "Sophie Claire." Mom swooped in, champagne flute in hand. "Sophie Dr. Larson's here, chief of surgery at Columbus General. Come say hi." She tugged Sophie away, then glanced at me. "Claire, check if the caterers have gluten-free stuff. Your cousin Mia's whining again." And just like that, I was the errand girl while Sophie hobnobbed with VIPs. Same old dance. Dr. Hamilton arrived, a vision in crimson, radiating authority. "Claire," she said, hugging me. "Ready?" "I'm not sure," I admitted. "This feels messy." She scanned the scene, the banner, the cake with just Sophie's name, the slideshow where I was a blurry afterthought. "Messier than I thought," she murmured. My father approached, Mom and Sophie trailing. "Dr. Hamilton. So glad you're here. You've worked with Claire, I hear." "Worked with?" Dr. Hamilton's eyebrow arched. "Claire's been my lead researcher for 2 years. Her brain injury study wouldn't exist without her." "How nice," Mom said vaguely. "Sophie's big into neurosurgery too. Dear. Patel was just praising her residency app." Anger flared. Sophie's focus was neuropsych, not surgery. They were lying, maybe to edge me out. Dr. Hamilton smiled tightly. "Fascinating. I thought Sophie leaned psychiatric. My mistake." Awkward silence. I felt the trap tightening. Dinner came, and I was shunted to a side table while Mom, Dad, Sophie, and Dr. Patel sat center stage. "Sophie's always been our star," Dad boasted to Dr. Patel. "Such drive even as a kid." Each word stabbed. My fork scraped an empty plate. Dr. Hamilton shot me a look, pity but still too. Dad stood, glass raised. "Thanks for celebrating Sophie's incredible journey. Med school's brutal and graduating debt-free is huge." Mom joined him. "We've always invested in her future. She's made us so proud." Invested in her. Not us. Tears burned, but I wouldn't let them fall. Then Sophie stood. "Wait," she said, looking at me. "This feels wrong. Claire and I both graduated top of our class. She worked harder, without the safety net I had." The room hushed. Mom whispered, "Sophie, not now." "It's time," Sophie snapped. "I won't take credit that leaves Claire out." "It's bullshit." My throat closed. She'd said it out loud in front of everyone. Dad forced a laugh. We're proud of both girls. But tonight's about Sophie's debt-free win. Which you paid for, Sophie shot back. Not me. The perfect facade cracked. Dr. Hamilton stood. Perfect timing for some news about Claire. All eyes turned. Her research on neurovascular regeneration won her the Patterson Fellowship at Johns Hopkins, the top award for any med student in the country. Full loan forgiveness included. Gasps. Dr. Patel's head swiveled toward me. My cousins buzzed. And Dr. Hamilton added, our department's merit fund, unanimously approved, will cover Claire's remaining loans for her groundbreaking work. Applause exploded, real and warm. For me. My parents sat stunned. Their narrative imploding. Sophie grinned, no envy, just pride. The night shifted. Faculty swarmed me, asking about my research. Supervisors shared stories of my patient wins I didn't know they'd noticed. Mom and Dad stayed glued to their seats, watching their quiet daughter steal the show. Sophie sidled up, clinking her glass to mine. Patterson? You badass. Why didn't you say? Found out today, I said. Didn't want to crash your party. This overblown thing? She snorted. Mom and Dad's circus. Not mine. I told them it was unfair, but they steamrolled me. You did. I blinked. Yeah, I've seen it forever, Claire. Just didn't know how to fix it. Dr. Patel approached. Dr. Bennett, Claire, your work sounds phenomenal. Ever considered Detroit over Hopkins? She's taken, Sophie cut in, arm around me. Patterson's once in a lifetime. But she'll revolutionize Baltimore in no time. Dr. Patel smiled. Keep us in mind post-fellowship. Both of you. My parents finally shuffled over, hesitant. Dr. Hamilton had quite the speech. Dad said, forcing pride. Patterson's big. Why didn't you tell us? Mom asked, a whiff of blame in her tone. Would it have changed anything? I said softly. You've shown where your priorities are. That's not fair, Dad started. We supported you differently, Mom jumped in. Sophie shook her head. Not tonight, guys. But we're talking about this soon. For real. Dr. Hamilton swooped in. Claire, the dean wants you, alumni mag feature. She smiled at my parents, cool but pointed. Two amazing daughters. Must feel good to see Claire shine after all she's overcome. They squirmed. We've always known she's special, Mom mumbled. Too late. The next week, my fellowship news rippled through Detroit's medical scene. Professors who'd snubbed me sent congrats. Classmates I'd barely spoken to claimed we were tight. Mom and Dad showed up at my place with a rose gold watch, same as Sophie's from months back. We thought you girls deserved something special, Dad said, setting it down. It's nice, I said. Not touching it. Bit tardy. Mom flinched. We knew you could handle things, Claire. Sophie needed more. That's your story, I replied. Doesn't cover skipping my talks. Funding her MCT prep but not mine, or paying her rent while I drowned in loans. We had to prioritize, Dad protested. And you picked Sophie, I said. Every time. Tears welled in Mom's eyes. We love you both. Maybe I said. But you didn't show it equally. This watch doesn't fix that. My phone rang, Dr. Hamilton, about Baltimore. Perfect timing, I told her. Turning from my parents' shell-shocked faces. 3 weeks later, my apartment was packed, boxes ready. Sophie perched on the windowsill, watching me tape the last one. Can't believe you're gone next week, she said. Detroit's gonna suck without you. You'll be too busy with residency, I teased. She sighed. I used to think I was lucky, Mom and Dad's golden girl. But they kept me small, needing them. You broke free. You didn't cause it, I said. Should have fought it sooner, she replied. They're a mess now, Mom's crying, Dad's bragging about his Hopkins genius like he made it happen. Let them, I said, calm washing over me. Their validation's not my compass anymore. Dr. Hamilton had shown me real support, tough, honest, unwavering. That was enough. So us? Sophie asked, taking my hand. No more rivalry, they forced, I said. Our paths, our rules. She grinned. Dr. Claire Bennett, Patterson badass. I'm so damn proud. For the first time in years I felt whole. The road ahead was mine, tough, bright, and free.